All right, let's dive into a world that might just make you rethink your shopping list and your next vacation. We're talking about Bobos.
Bobos.
Yeah, Bobos. It's this term coined by David Brooks to describe a new kind of social elite.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think a fascinating blend of the bourgeois and the bohemian.
Interesting. Like, what does that even look like?
Well, picture this. Expensive, handcrafted sandals worn to a high-powered business meeting.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So we're talking about people who are successful but also have this, like, alternative artsy side.
Exactly. And our guide for this deep dive is Brooks' book, Bobos in Paradise. And trust me, you might be surprised to discover how much Bobo culture already influences your life. I mean, it's everywhere, from your morning coffee to your weekend plans.
It's true. Their influence is pretty far-reaching, even if you don't realize it.
Right. And to help us unpack all of this, I got our resident expert on cultural trends and social shifts. What's fascinating about this, wouldn't you say, is how Bobos represent this fusion of values that were once seen as total opposites.
Oh, absolutely. Brooks kicks off his book with this very observation. The lines between, the buttoned-up world of capitalism and the free-spirited counterculture, they've totally blurred.
Yeah, it's like the old categories just don't apply anymore.
Exactly. And get this, Brooks first noticed this shift in a surprising place.
Rare.
The New York Times wedding announcements.
No way. Wedding announcements. That's fascinating. So we're talking about a cultural shift so profound that it's like showing up in wedding announcements.
Exactly. You started seeing all these pairings that would have been unheard of a generation ago. Like traditional elite institutions like Dartmouth were now linked with counterculture bastions like Berkeley through marriage.
Wow. That's quite a shift.
It was no longer unusual to see, say, MBAs marrying PhDs.
Yeah.
It suggests that ambition and intellectualism were no longer seen as, like, mutually exclusive.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you could be both driven and deep thinking.
And that fusion is really what defines the Bobo.
So they're financially successful, but they also want to be seen as creative and socially aware. They're not just chasing wealth. They're after a certain kind of cultural capital, right?
Precisely. And they crave authenticity, even in their spending habits.
Like how? Give me an example.
Okay, take their obsession with high-end utilitarian kitchen appliances.
Okay, I'm listening.
We're talking about those stoves that look like they belong in a professional chef's kitchen.
Yeah. But they cost a small fortune.
Exactly. They're a status symbol, but it's a subtle status symbol, right? It's disguised as a practical necessity.
Yeah. It's like they're saying, I'm successful enough to afford this amazing stove, but I'm also down to earth enough to actually use it.
Exactly. It's like a rejection of that flashy, ostentatious materialism of the, like, old money elite.
Right.
Bobos are more about these carefully curated experiences, about showing off their refined taste and their commitment to quality, even in something as mundane as a kitchen appliance.
Okay, so they've got the top-of-the-line kitchens.
Right.
But then Brooks describes their homes as being filled with textured, authentic decor, nothing too slick or modern.
Right.
It's all about handcrafted artisanal vibes.
Absolutely.
Is this another example of that conspicuous inconspicuousness?
Totally. Think. Hand-woven rugs from exotic locales, reclaimed wood furniture, and artwork by, like, up-and-coming local artists.
Yeah.
It's a rejection of mass-produced cookie-cutter design. They want pieces with a story, with a sense of history and, uniqueness.
Okay, so they've got the kitchen, the decor, but let's not forget their adventures.
Oh, yeah.
They're not just lounging on a beach. They're trekking through the Himalayas, kayaking in Patagonia, even if it means, like, roughing it a bit.
There's a definite sense of wanting to, like, push their limits to experience authenticity, even if it comes with a little discomfort.
Right. It's like proving they're not soft, that they haven't lost touch with, like, the rugged individualism that their bohemian side craves.
Exactly.
It's almost like they're trying to, like, have it both ways, to enjoy the fruits of their success while still maintaining this sense of adventure and idealism.
Yeah.
But this balancing act, it can lead to some interesting contradictions, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Brooks calls it this constant negotiation between, like, striving for success and the fear of becoming everything they once rebelled against.
Right. So much tension there.
It's a delicate tightrope walk, for sure. And it's really at the very heart of Bobo identity.
Okay, so we've got a good sense of what makes a Bobo tick.
Yeah.
But how did this new class even emerge? how did we go from, like, the old WASP establishment to this world of Bobos?
Yeah.
Where does this all fit the bigger picture of, cultural evolution?
Well, it's not like the old guard just like stepped aside and said, "Here you go, take over." It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, for sure.
Brooks actually frames this shift with a really powerful quote. He says, "History, as Pareto once remarked, is the graveyard of aristocracies."
Ooh, that's good. The graveyard of aristocracies.
Yeah. And so what happened was this like confluence of factors that really shook things up.
Right.
It created this vacuum for a new kind of elite to emerge.
Okay, so let's break down some of those factors. I'm guessing the opening up of universities played a huge role,
Yeah.
making higher education more accessible to people from diverse backgrounds, not just those, old money families.
Exactly. That traditional system of privilege where, like, your family name practically guaranteed you a spot at an Ivy League school, that started to crumble.
Right.
Universities began admitting students based on merit. And this opened doors for a whole new wave of ambitious, intelligent individuals who weren't necessarily born into wealth.
Right. It was like a new playing field.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's one factor. And then you had the countercultural revolution of the 1960s, which challenged pretty much everything about the establishment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From traditional values to social hierarchies.
Totally.
Did that further kind of disrupt the status quo and pave the way for a new generation to, like, step in?
Oh, without a doubt. The counterculture rejected conformity. It was all about embracing individuality, questioning the traditional paths to success, the very definition of what it meant to lead a meaningful life.
Right. They were redefining everything.
Exactly. And this really paved the way for a generation that wasn't afraid to challenge authority and, forge their own path.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but it wasn't just about rejecting the old ways, right?
Right.
It was about creating something new, something that kind of blended the best of both worlds.
Right.
And wasn't the rise of the information age a key factor in all of this?
Mm.
I mean, it created so many new opportunities, rewarded education and innovation in a way that we hadn't really seen before.
Absolutely. The information age, it wasn't just about technology. It was about a shift in the very, like, fabric of society.
Yeah, a huge shift.
It created this whole new landscape where knowledge and creativity were the new currency.
Oh, yeah, the new capital.
And this played perfectly into the hands of this rising educated class, people who were, like, hungry for success, but also craved something more than just, material wealth.
It's like all of these pieces just came together to create the perfect conditions for the rise of the Bobos.
Yeah.
This new elite, they weren't just inheriting their status, they were like actively shaping it, forging this new cultural landscape that combined financial achievement with social responsibility and, a real passion for ideas.
Yeah, and speaking of ideas, Brooks argues that intellectuals played this crucial role in shaping Bobo values.
Oh, that's interesting. Which intellectuals specifically?
Well, think about thinkers like Theodore Roszak, who really critiqued the technocratic society, and Jane Jacobs, who championed vibrant, diverse urban spaces.
Yeah, yeah. I could see how their ideas would resonate.
Their ideas resonated really strongly with this emerging class.
Right. It's like they were looking for a model, a blueprint for how to, like, reconcile their own success with their ideals.
Yeah.
They didn't want to just be another generation of, like, wealthy elites.
Right.
They wanted to create something different, something more meaningful.
And that's the fascinating thing about this group. They weren't just content with inheriting the world. They wanted to remake it in their own image,
Yeah.
blending that drive and ambition of the bourgeois with the creativity and social conscience of the bohemian.
Right. A hybrid, in a way.
Exactly.
But the question remains, how does this, like, unique blend of values actually play out in their everyday lives? I mean, how do they live this philosophy?
I'm glad you asked, because Brooks doesn't just talk about Bobo philosophy.
Right.
He dives into the nitty-gritty of their lives.
Yeah, let's get into the details.
From their work to their leisure to even their spiritual practices.
Okay, this is getting good.
And trust me, it gets pretty interesting.
All right, I'm all ears. Where do we begin?
Let's start with their approach to business.
Okay.
Brooks describes this new sensibility that they've brought to the workplace. It's no longer just about, climbing the corporate ladder and making a profit.
Yeah. There's got to be more to it than that.
Exactly. There's this added emphasis on creativity, collaboration, and what he calls making meaning.
Oh, making meaning. I like that.
It's like they want their work to have a sense of purpose,
Right.
to contribute to something larger than themselves.
Right.
It's not just about the paycheck. It's about making a difference.
Yeah. So they've taken those bohemian ideals of like creativity and passion and applied them to the world of business.
Exactly.
Creating a whole new work culture in the process.
And they've been incredibly successful at it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Look at companies like Ben & Jerry's or Patagonia.
Yeah, great example.
They're hugely profitable, but they also have this strong social mission woven into their very DNA.
Right.
They've managed to turn that traditional corporate model on its head.
You know, proving that you can do good and do well at the same time.
You're right. It's a great point. They've really shown that business can be this force for positive change.
Yeah.
A way to express your values and make a real impact on the world. It's a far cry from that image of the, ruthless CEO who only cares about the bottom line.
Totally. And this bleeds into their intellectual lives as well.
How so?
Well, unlike the intellectuals of the past who often lived in like ivory towers.
Right. Removed from the real world.
Removed from the world of commerce and mainstream culture, Bobo intellectuals, they're much more integrated.
Yeah, more engaged.
They're much more comfortable navigating the marketplace of ideas.
Right. You see them writing bestsellers, appearing on TV, consulting for corporations.
Exactly.
They're not afraid to engage with the world, to use their intellectual capital to influence and shape the conversation.
Oh, right. It's like they've blurred the lines between academia and the real world. Totally. And that blurring of lines, it can create some interesting tensions.
Oh, for sure.
Brooks even talks about this phenomenon of status-income disequilibrium.
Yes.
Where intellectuals find themselves, socializing with wealthy financiers and entrepreneurs.
Right.
It leads to a certain level of, envy, perhaps.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
You can imagine those cocktail party conversations. It's like they've achieved the cultural status,
yeah,
but not necessarily the financial rewards to match.
Right.
Which, of course, feeds right back into that core Bobo anxiety we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The desire to have it all.
Right.
But without compromising their values.
Exactly. It speaks to that constant struggle between striving for success and fearing that, you've sold out in the process. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah, for sure.
And it plays out in like every aspect of their lives, from their careers to their relationships to even how they, spend their leisure time.
Speaking of which, let's dive into how they approach pleasure, because even their downtime is like infused with this unique Bobo sensibility. They're not just relaxing, they're like optimizing. Even their leisure activities are a form of self-improvement.
You're talking about what Brooks calls utilitarian pleasure.
Exactly. It's not just about like having fun.
Yeah.
It's about having fun in a way that is self-improving, responsible, and of course, authentic.
Right. Right. Tell me more about that. How does utilitarian pleasure manifest in their lives?
Well, think about those adventure vacations we were talking about. They're not just along on a beach somewhere.
Right.
They're trekking through the Himalayas.
Yeah.
Kayaking in Patagonia.
Pushing their limits.
Both physically and intellectually.
Right. It's like even their vacations are a form of self-cultivation, a way to like broaden their horizons and challenge themselves.
Exactly. They're not just seeking relaxation. They're seeking growth and enrichment. And it's not just about exotic travel either. Even something as simple as a dinner party becomes an expression of their cultural capital.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They're not just serving up whatever's easy, right?
Right.
It's artisanal cheese, organic wine, and conversations about the latest indie film or thought-provoking book.
It's about curating those experiences, showcasing their refined tastes and their commitment to a certain lifestyle. But it's also about connection,
Yeah.
Sharing those experiences with like-minded people, building a sense of community around, shared values and passions.
But here's where things get really interesting. Brooks argues that even their spirituality reflects this unique blend of like bohemian and bourgeois impulses.
Oh, interesting. How so?
He calls it flexidoxy.
Flexidoxy.
Yeah, it's this idea that they're drawn to like traditional rituals and religious practices.
Right.
But they're also fiercely individualistic.
So they want the comfort and community of religion.
Yeah.
But without, like, the dogma or the submission to authority.
Exactly. They're picking and choosing, taking what resonates with them from different traditions, creating their own, like, personalized spiritual path.
Yeah. It's like they're crafting a spiritual buffet, you know? Selecting the elements that appeal to their individual tastes and needs.
Right. Which I guess makes sense, given their overall approach to life.
Right.
This idea of, like, curating and customizing everything to fit their personal vision.
Exactly. It's about autonomy and self-discovery, but also this longing for connection and meaning. It's a reflection of that core tension we keep coming back to.
Right.
This desire to have it all, to be both free-spirited and grounded, successful and, soulful.
Right. And it makes you wonder what happens when this individualistic, self-cultivating ethos is applying to the realm of politics. Because, after all, Bobos are increasingly the ones shaping our political landscape.
That's a great question.
What does Brooks have to say about that?
Well, he describes them as blue jean conservatives.
Blue jean conservatives. Okay.
Yeah. Not necessarily in, like, the traditional Republican sense.
Right.
More in the classic Burkean sense.
Okay.
They want to, like, conserve the world they've created.
Right.
This blend of bohemian and bourgeois values.
Okay, so they're conservative in that sense.
Exactly. They value civility. They appreciate tradition. They seek community.
Right, but they also want to maintain individual freedom and autonomy.
Right.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
They're not afraid to, like, challenge authority, but they also recognize the need for structure and order.
Brooks argues that this leads them to favor a more decentralized approach to politics.
Right.
One that emphasizes local communities and institutions rather than, like, grand sweeping government programs.
So more bottom up than top down.
Exactly. It's about empowering individuals and communities to solve problems from the, ground up.
Okay. And this connects back to their preference for meitais.
Right.
This practical wisdom that comes from experience and local knowledge.
Exactly. They're skeptical of grand theories and universal solutions.
Right.
Instead, they believe in this more pragmatic trial and error approach.
Yeah.
One that is sensitive to the complexities of specific situations.
But that can be a double-edged sword, right?
It can. It allows for flexibility and adaptability, but it can also lead to a certain level of indecision or a reluctance to, like, take bold action on a larger scale.
So there's a risk that they become so focused on the nuances of, like, each situation that they lose sight of the bigger picture.
Right.
Or the need for, systemic change.
Precisely. And Brooks worries about this. He sees a potential danger in this focus on, private life and local concerns.
Yeah.
He fears it might lead to a decline in civic engagement and a loss of national purpose. He even uses this striking phrase, the menace of Belgian cultural hegemony.
The menace of Belgian cultural hegemony. Wow. Okay, that's definitely one for the quote book. But what does he even mean by that?
He's essentially saying that we might become so content with our comfortable, cultivated lives that we lose sight of, larger societal issues or the need for collective action. We become so focused on curating our own perfect little worlds that we neglect the health of the, larger ecosystem.
It's a sobering thought, and it makes you wonder, are we so caught up in the Bobo pursuit of having it all that we're losing sight of what truly matters?
It's a good question.
Are we sacrificing our ambition for comfort?
Yeah.
Our collective good for, individual fulfillment?
These are the questions that Brooks leaves us with.
Yeah.
He doesn't offer any easy answers, but he challenges us to think critically about the choices we're making, the values we're embracing, and the impact we're having on the world around us.
He's not condemning the Bobo lifestyle, right?
Right.
But he's urging us to examine its potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
To consider whether this pursuit of self-cultivation and curated experiences ultimately leads to a more fulfilling and meaningful life, or simply a more comfortable and self-absorbed one.
And I think that's a question worth pondering for all of us, regardless of our, socioeconomic status or cultural preferences. We can all learn from examining the Bobo phenomenon, from understanding how our own choices and aspirations fit into the, the larger tapestry of society.
Beautifully put. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating exploration of Bobo culture. We hope it's sparked some new insights and maybe even inspired you to examine your own values and aspirations in a fresh light.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.